welcome back to the 2015 South Carolina AgriBiz and Farm Expo. I'm Donna London, and today with me we have Dr. Matt Smith, and he is the resident director for the PDREC. Dr. Smith, welcome.
Thank you.
Now tell me what the PDREC is.
The PDREC is part of Clemson's Agricultural Experiment Station and also part of Clemson's Extension Service. And it is a research center to develop new plants and new practices for growing those plants and testing the varieties that exist to make the farmers in South Carolina more productive and more income and hopefully help everybody.
And it's one of 4 research centers?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And they all work on research, but different types of research.
Different types. The Bell Baruch Institute in Georgetown is coastal forest related. Edisto Rec is much like the PDREC, but slightly different crops down in that part of the state. The Charleston lab is a vegetable-oriented lab. There is a campus research farms too, and the PDREC then is agriculture for the PD. Amazing.
Well, I was speaking with Dr. Dobbins earlier and talking about taking my children to field trips, and particularly on the Clemson campus and looking at some of the livestock and things like that. But also recall as a student myself, now that you mentioned that out on Savannah Highway in Charleston, going on a field trip with my biology class and looking at the plants out there. But I'm wondering specifically what goes on at the PDREC, and particularly what are some of the new and innovative areas that you're working in?
Okay, well, one traditional thing that we've had for a long time is turf pathology. So we have a very advanced program, lots of golf greens out there, although you don't see anybody golfing, but studying the diseases of turf. And one of my first days on the job, I went out with Dr. Bruce Martin, who's the faculty in charge of that, and we were looking at the greens, and he saw a new disease, and he got so excited. He said, "Oh boy!" And it's kind of a strange thing to be with somebody who gets excited to see a new disease, but that's what he's there for.
Something to cure.
That's what he's there for, and he specializes in warm season grasses. There is a turf program on campus more for the mountains and the cool season grasses. So that is we have international course superintendents come to visit every year to learn from him. So it's quite an advanced program.
Right. We
have a long-standing tobacco research program, particularly a specialty again in pathology and the diseases of tobacco. We've lost our tobacco agronomist and hope to find a way to fill that. We have the state cotton specialist is at the PDREC, and he grows all the potentially commercially viable cottons available to producers every year, and takes data on yield and so forth, and the cotton producers value that very much. That's what tells them, well, this next year I want to plant this, or go away from that. And he also then knows which chemicals help the most, what fertilization rates work the best for cotton, when to manage it. So that's very important. We have a new soybean breeder who's looking at developing soybeans adapted to the PD region, also with some new traits, so looking for soybeans with high oleic acid, which is a number of food crops now that they think that's good for your health.
Okay.
So we also have a new peanut breeder, first peanut breeder in South Carolina, and peanuts are a literally growing crop in the PD region of South Carolina, and so he's for the first time developing peanut breeds for South Carolina. Also, some of those to be high oleic acid also, and that are adapted for the diseases in the PD. We also have a faculty member working on, in conjunction with some industries, on some bioenergy crops, switchgrass, some trees, looking at other agricultural crops that you don't usually think of when we're talking about peanuts and so forth. And we have two USDA Agricultural Research Service faculty, and one is a cotton geneticist, so he's developing advanced cotton genetics that he doesn't try to develop the final variety. He releases the genetics that other breeders can use to develop advanced varieties, and a good soil agronomist, a good plant agronomist to look at practices for production. And we have two entomologists, one looking at row crop pests, and one looking at turf grass and ornamental pests. So we have quite a diverse, scientific background and lots of moving parts out there.
And how many scientists are located there?
Right now, including myself, there's 9 full-time Clemson faculty. There's the 2 ARS research scientists, and there are 2 part-time tobacco pathologists.
Right.
And I hope in this coming year we will hire a new soil scientist to look at improving the quality of the health of the soil, very important to getting good yields. A general pathologist to look at soil-borne diseases, not very crop-specific, but broadly, and possibly a small grain breeder to look at some winter crops for this area.
It is amazing how much is going on there. Now, the APT, the Advanced Plant Technology Initiative, is that something new, and is that something that the PDREC is a part of?
PDREC is definitely a part of it. It's very new, just in the last 1.5 to 2 years that the Clemson and the state have been supporting this initiative. The director, Dr. Stephen Kresovich, is located on campus, but the peanut breeder that I mentioned and the soybean breeder that I mentioned and the possible small grains breeder are all directly funded through the Advanced Plant Technology programs. Dr. Kresovich himself has looking at hundreds, if not thousands, of varieties of sorghum out there at the PDREC, which is a really interesting thing to see, the genetic diversity in a crop like sorghum. And so just in a 10-acre field, you can see sorghum that might be 12 inches high and some that's 20 feet high.
Amazing.
And some of it's sweet, and some of it's for grain, and some of it's, so a lot of diversity. All of that's part of the advanced plant technology, and we are soon, I hope, to undergo a $5+ million renovation of our main building to bring our labs up to more modern specifications and make them ready for the advanced lab work that needs to go with advanced plant technologies.
Fantastic. Now, how does the work get to the PDREC? Do corporations come to you, or do people from national programs like USDA come to you, or do individual farmers come to you with a problem?
All of the above.
Okay.
Most of the scientists have at least some role in extension, and so in extension we're trying to show them the best, what we've learned, but at the same time we're learning from them what their problems are and what they need. And so, we need a peanut that does this. And so we get it from the producers directly. Then there are national grants and state grants, and industry will come and say, we'd like for you to develop this characteristic, or test our chemical or whatever on how it performs on controlling a certain insect but not killing honeybees, that
right.
sort of thing. So we get that, and from the very often just the creativity of the individual faculty member that what they would like, what he or she would like to see.
Amazing. It's amazing what goes on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel proud that Clemson University is leading the way in that way. And I guess that brings me to the point that it seems like there is, and I could be wrong because I'm not in it, but there's a renewed interest on agricultural research. Do you find that there's more these days, or more interest in that, or more general public interest in seeing what agricultural research can come up with?
There's a lot more interest nationally and in the state. During the economic downturn, agricultural research, a lot of people don't appreciate what it does, and so even on Capitol Hill, Congress, cut the budget of the Extension Service and some of the research, and the same was done, at the state level. But it's a little bit short-sighted, and American agriculture is a shining beacon to the rest of the world, and part of it is our threefold mission of teaching, research, and extension. And so we do research to develop better varieties and to learn how to grow things. We take that through extension to the farmers. We take that to the classroom, to new students. And it's those three things working together: educating the new students, doing the research that's always needed, and then getting that information out is critical. And the current Secretary of Agriculture did have a much greater appreciation and has really pushed not only for more agricultural research, but for more emphasis on small farmers, so beginning farmers, and trying to get returning veterans into agriculture and finding ways to help them, because you can't just walk in and say, I'm going to be a farmer.
Right.
Buying land, buying equipment, but trying to find ways to do that. And with the world growth population, the growth of the world's population and anticipated food needs, we're thinking by 2050 we have to almost double the amount of food that we produce. And most of that increase will have to come on existing farmland. There's not that much more. 70% of that increase will have to come from existing farmland. So just to feed the world, this research has to continue.
Right. The challenges are major.
Yes, and anybody that's interested, go back and look just at the time when my father was a young boy, plowed with a mule and got, just tens of bushels an acre of corn. And now we're 200, 300 bushels per acre regularly, and that's agricultural research and innovation that's done that. And so this is a critical thing, not only for South Carolina, but for everybody.
Well, we are very fortunate to have you at Clemson University. You bring the knowledge that comes from USDA. Tell me about your work there and what you bring from that to the PDREC.
Well, in my last role in USDA, I worked for the Agricultural Research Service, and I had a title of National Program Leader. And those positions are generally there to manage research nationwide amongst the couple thousand ARS scientists across the country. In my case, it was related to sustainable agricultural systems and organic agriculture and natural resources. And so I would make sure that we were doing the research that the country needed, and that we weren't duplicating everything, and just sort of managing on a broad level. But I also got to work on USDA level committees, so the Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food Committee, and I saw how most people aren't aware of it. The USDA is one of the largest cabinet agencies in the government, and but a lot of that's from the food stamps program, but it affects everything. The rural development builds buildings in Florence or in cities. We do the food stamps. We do foreign agriculture, import, export, all of that. And so it's a really big organization. And so getting to work on committees where I could see that whole big moving thing come together to try to solve a problem. In this
Right.
case, Know Your Farmer, Know Your Food was to encourage local production and encourage small farmers and all of that, and that was a really interesting thing.
And obviously that has been very successful. Do you foresee doing much work with that at the PDREC?
I do, just from personal interest, plus again the need, and the college and the PSA, Clemson PSA, is very supportive of more small farmer work, more farm to market, farm to institution. I'm hoping at the PD to start doing extension demonstrations for people who are interested in growing high value vegetable crops, rapid sequence, maybe what we call hoop houses, which are hoops with plastic over them that extend the season.
Okay.
So they can grow crops into the fall farther, feed into farmers markets or into hospitals or regular agriculture. Most producers who are in commodity markets, it costs them a certain amount to grow that corn or cotton or whatever, but when it comes time to sell, they have to take the price that they're offered.
Right.
And
right.
With some of these smaller crops, if you're going vegetables and selling into farmers markets and things like that, you're more able to set the price. And so there is a possibility for a better return per acre, but also you can't do 1,000 acres.
But it is a fun time to be in agriculture,
It is.
isn't it?
There is, and the general public is much more aware.
Right.
And every grocery store that I've been in lately, including here in Florence, there's a proud locally grown section.
Right.
And I personally, buy from that section because I want to encourage the local foods, and it's more sustainable. And there's no reason to eat something grown in California if it can be grown down the street.
It is exciting when you go into a standard grocery store and see that it was it was born in
Yes.
it was grown in South Carolina. And I think it would be fun to be in your position and seeing that on the ground and from the ground up. And I want to thank you for joining us today.
Well, appreciate the opportunity.
I've been speaking with Dr. Matt Smith. He is the resident director for the PDREC.